What is up, everybody? This is DJ Cade back once again with another video, and in this video we're going to be talking about this ticket, a Colossal Discovery, this sort of pink looking EX raid pass that's been circulating around the internet for the past few days. Now, I'd just like to preface this video by saying that we don't fully know what this event is going to entail. A lot of people have speculated that it's going to be Regigigas, that it's going to allow us access to him. Some people have speculated that it might be some sort of global Go Fest, where if you have this ticket, you will be able to get a lot of exclusive spawns and other things that a lot of other players aren't getting, and they'll be able to experience it anywhere in the world. But out of the things that we do know, one thing we have found out about this pass is that it is going to cost $7.99, and it is not going to be purchasable using the coins that you generate in-game from going to gyms. So you're going to have to pay $8 of real-world money to get this raid pass. Now, a lot of people have already weighed in comment sections and other places on the internet. Some people seem to be all in favor of this. Some people are jumping at the opportunity to get their pass, whereas other people are finding that they don't want to pay for that they think that this thing is bogus. And I wanted to weigh in on this topic today because when I first heard about this, I was kind of on the fence. I really didn't know what to think. I really didn't have much of an opinion. But when I started looking at certain things, not necessarily things that Niantic is doing, but things that Nintendo as an overall company are doing, I have started to notice some really disturbing trends at Nintendo. Places where they've gotten greedier and greedier as time goes on. And I'm beginning to become concerned that this EX Raid Pass might be the first step in a totally different direction for how Niantic is going to choose to handle its microtransactions in the future. And let me tell you, that direction sorta has a dark cloud lingering over it right now. Now, before I begin talking about microtransactions and how that could all change for Niantic in the future, I'd like to direct you guys to another video that I've seen recently on YouTube. It's by the channel Beat 'em Ups, and the video is called Nintendo's Greedy Decline with Microtransactions. And I think this is going to be a really important video for you guys to watch before you continue watching the rest of this video. And I say that because this guy does an absolutely excellent job breaking down all of Nintendo's mobile games, from Super Mario Run all the way up to Mario Kart, whatever that thing is that they've currently released, that's absolutely loaded with microtransactions. And he breaks down in great detail from the investor's perspective, from the profit perspective of all of these different mobile games, that there's evidence there to prove that the shadier Nintendo gets about their microtransactions, the more things are like loot boxes, the more they're randomized, the more they're like gambling, the more Nintendo seems to realize that they can make a ton of money by being scummier and scummier with their microtransactions. And like I said, he does a very good job breaking all of this down, and I highly suggest you check that out. Another thing that I'd like you guys to become familiar with, if you are not already for whatever reason, is the whole issue involving the Joy-Con drift that's currently going on. Now, this is something that's been an issue that's been lurking in the background for a long time. It's made Nintendo a lot of money in terms of replacement Joy-Con controllers, and if you need to learn anything more about that, then I highly recommend that you go check out Arlo's channel, and specifically his video titled Nintendo's Hardware Quality is Starting to Drift, and that should catch you up on that. Now, what does all this have to do with each other? Well, if you guys didn't watch the videos that I suggested to you in this post, then I'll give you a real quick rundown synopsis timeline of how these things all kind of run side by side together, and how you can kind of see a pattern overall in all of the different ways that Nintendo themselves, not necessarily Niantic, has gotten greedier and greedier. So in 2016, we saw the release of Super Mario Run, Pokemon Go, and the Nintendo Switch. So all of these things kind of got started and got going at the same time. Now, I don't want to copy all of his content and give you all the figures because I don't want to be stealing this guy's video, but I'll say that at first when Mario Run came out, it was actually fairly innocent about its microtransactions. Basically what happened is you got the first 5 levels of the game, or the first world, so to speak, and then you would pay a $10 flat rate to unlock the entire rest of the game, okay? And I really like this system because it reminded me a lot of the old days of Doom, actually, when you'd get the demo version that only had Knee Deep in the Dead, and then you got so hooked on it that you just wanted to get the rest of the game, so you'd go out and buy the rest of the game. It was basically a demo version on a cell phone, which I thought is a good concept, and I kind of miss demos in this day and age. It was kind of a concept that kind of just sort of disappeared as microtransactions got bigger, and I thought it was a good model for a game. But apparently, according to this video, if you watch it, it was considered an absolute flop by Nintendo's investors. In fact, he points out in this video that Nintendo's stock prices dropped 7%. In fact, $50 million is what the game made. And the game made so little money in their eyes that that was a failure. So as time goes on, and he talks about this more in the video, that they try other things with microtransactions over the years, and they try more random things, and it seems like the more random it gets, the more people spend and the more of a success it is in the eyes of the investors, not necessarily in the eyes of the fans. And he talks about how it's just gotten worse and worse to the point where we're at Mario Kart, whatever it is now. And that game is so prevalent in microtransactions. They have subscription services. They have things where you can buy jewels. And a lot of the important things, a lot of the good characters in that game are extremely rare, often requiring you to spend hundreds of dollars just so you can game the random number generator so that you can have the best odds of finding those characters. And what's even weirder that I want to point out is that it's becoming known that Mario Kart even... Here we go. Why is Nintendo faking multiplayer in Mario Kart? It's been proven now that this game is even lying to players. Like, just basically straight up, flat out lying to players about the fact that they're playing with other people online. Apparently, it generates random usernames, or at least things that look like usernames, to try and convince people that they're playing the game online when they're really not. So we've come all the way from basically like a demo version, and you just pay $10 to unlock the rest, all the way up to the game where they're basically lying to you about the actual gameplay. And that is something that I've never seen from Nintendo in all of these years that I've been playing Nintendo games. Meanwhile, all of this stuff is going on with the Switch hardware. A lot of people aren't noticing things like the Joy-Con drift just yet. It seems like it takes, anywhere from 6 months to a year for a lot of Joy-Cons to develop drift, but it's something that Nintendo could have very easily addressed if they wanted to. At the first sign of trouble, they could have retooled things, they could have issued recalls or some sort of refunds, and while the customer service has been doing an okay job in handling a lot of those things, it still begs the question, like Arlo asked in this video, why didn't they do it sooner? I mean, it's gotten to a point now where Nintendo has released the Switch Lite, and at the time of making this video, even he was concerned that the Switch Lite was going to be a bad idea, because especially if the Joy-Cons, the joysticks, are built into the system, and they're using the same technology that the other joysticks use, and they fail, then you can no longer replace your Joy-Cons. It basically qualifies at that point as bricking the system. So you either have to send your Switch Lite back to Nintendo, or you just have to go out and buy a whole nother new console. And at the time, this was only a concern based on the patterns that they had seen in the hardware And wouldn't you know it, I happened to find another video just the other day by another great YouTube channel, Tech Review USA, that says that yes, the Nintendo Switch Lites are experiencing Joy-Con drift. And as you can see right here, people are angry. It begs the question that if Nintendo knew about this problem, if they knew that people were requesting these things, why didn't they retool those control sticks? Why did they ship it with the exact same technology? It seems like a scummy move, doesn't it? That they wouldn't have resolved the issue, especially since they have had basically years of public playtesting to confirm that that was the case. And I'd like to mention that on top of all of that, this has become such an enormous issue that there is literally a class action lawsuit currently being filed against Nintendo for this exact issue. And it wasn't really until this lawsuit was pushed in Nintendo's face that they decided that they were going to issue any sort of public response or do anything about it in terms of a media or a press briefing or anything of the sort. So with all this pressure, with all these known issues, with the lawsuit and everything going on, you would think that at some point Nintendo would make a change, that they would make a retooling, a hardware correction. But they haven't. As far as we know, there's still no Joy-Con V2 that has come out yet with a more solid stick. Now, while those two timelines were going on, the timeline of the mobile games released by Nintendo and the timeline of the Switch controller Joy-Con drift issue, during that whole time, Pokemon Go is just kind of sort of running in the background. It's just sort of doing its own thing. I mean, throughout Pokemon Go's 3-year history now, they've had a lot of events, but they've never really had an event that's exclusive to paying players before. All of the community days, all of the other 3-hour raid events, all of the other things related to research tasks and special research tasks, all of those have been open to all players in the past. The whole idea with Pokemon Go from the very beginning is that you could pay money if you wanted to get yourself ahead a little faster, to get yourself, the extra Stardust, to give yourself, better hatches or things like that. But it was never a thing where you ever had to do any of that if you didn't want to. You could opt to be a free player, and with a little bit of luck and a lot of hard work and elbow grease and a lot of walks and getting out there and trading with your friends, you could complete your Pokedex and have good PvP Pokemon and get shinies and get other benefits from the game regardless. But this Raid Pass is going to be the first time in the history of Pokemon Go where, if it is true that Regigigas is coming to the raid system through this raid pass only, then that is going to change the attitude of Pokemon Go forever in a lot of people's eyes. It's going to be a thing where you can no longer catch them all if you are not a paying player. You're going to have to pay for this raid pass or whatever it is in order to get Regigigas. Now, it might be true that Regigigas isn't the selected Pokemon for this thing. It might be only speculation. A lot of people are throwing those ideas out there. We don't know if Regigigas is going to be accessible or not, or if this is going to be more like a GoFest where it's going to be increased spawns. But if it does turn out to be that, then let me ask you guys this question. If this does become a success in the eyes of Nintendo's shareholders and they say, oh, that was really a good idea, putting one specific Pokemon behind a paywall, given the trend of all of Nintendo's other mobile games and knowing that those greedier microtransactions really satisfy the investors, what do you think is going to stop them from doing this again in the future? What could happen if Darkrai is the next one that is stuck behind a paywall, and now all of a sudden you're going to have to pay to get Darkrai. Or what happens when Arceus comes in, the god Pokemon, literally on a tier above Regigigas. You know, is that going to be a $20 raid pass? Or let's say that Niantic decides that all of those Community Day bonuses that you guys get, man, those are just way too good, right? To just give away for free. What would happen if this is a massive success in terms of the profit potential that it makes, and they decide, you know, maybe going into year 3 of Community Days, maybe we should just have all Community Days be paid events. Why not? Maybe it's just an extra $5. Well, throughout the course of the year, that's going to be at least $60 that you're going to spend just so you can attend Community Day. Now, if it isn't the case that Regigigas is going to be the Pokemon that's behind this paywall, and let's say that's not the main incentive for the raid pass, well, you guys are probably saying, well, it's probably going to be more like a global Go Fest at this point. There's going to be a lot of spawns and everything, and you'll be able to attend from anywhere. Now, in theory, that's a really good idea, but what you have to keep in mind is that it's also pretty predatory of Niantic. Imagine that you're a free-to-play player. You always have been, okay? Well, this event rolls around in your hometown, right? All the people on your Discords and other communication mediums, they're all talking about how they're going to be out at the event, and then you see everybody out playing and catching unknowns and Cranidos left and right and Wild Geibel and all these other things, and everybody's getting all of this, and here you are literally standing right next to these people, not able to enjoy any of those benefits. That is really predatory, if you ask me, because what they are doing is they are leveraging people's social fears. They're levering that FOMO, that fear of missing out, and they're putting a lot of pressure on players to pay for this raid pass so that they can go out there and actually participate with their friends. I mean, how many times have you guys been at a raid and you've been out on, like, let's say the 3-hour raid day or something, like the Zapdos or Moltres day or something like that, and you run out of raid passes, but all of your group is still left going, and your group is saying, come on, man, like, come on, just drop the extra couple bucks, man, on another raid pass. This only comes around once. I mean, like, we want to hang out with you. We don't want you to head out right away. But in those instances, most people at least get a few shots at that legendary. You know, they might have that chance to get that shiny. You know, they're not completely excluded from the event. Most of the time when people throw in another dollar, it's just because they want to keep going, because they're having fun with their friends, which is the whole point of the game. But forcing this transaction on players is really scummy, you guys. Don't you think so? I mean, people are already going to be paying for incubators and other premium raid passes, especially if Regigigas comes into the raid system on this 8-hour event. So it ends up being just more money just to be hanging out with your friends and playing the game and having a good time, on top of the money that people are already spending on this game to get those kind of benefits. Now, the reason I brought up the Pokemon Go Fest 2019 webpage here is because a lot of people are saying, well, you know, why shouldn't you pay for an event like that? I mean, if it's basically going to be a Go Fest, well, the other Go Fest is a ticketed event. You have to pay admission to get into that, you know, so what's so different about paying, you know, the $8 so you can experience it globally? Well, here's the thing about Go Fest. It's a lot more like a concert or some kind of outdoor festival in the way it's ran. Keep that in mind. I mean, Niantic has to go get permits from the city so that they can set up in the park. They have to work with local area police so that they can cut off certain roads so that they can make sure everything is safe for pedestrians. They have to be working with vendors and all the other people with food trucks and other various like plushie vendors and clothing vendors and that sort of thing. They have to rent porta potties. That's another big expense that you guys probably don't think of. Renting toilets is very important for events like this. And on top of that, they're also renting cell towers. They're also communicating with cell phone companies to try and bring towers out to this location so that people can play this game. So all of that costs money. None of these things are free. I mean, maybe if you pull the right strings, you can get a couple of those things for free. But for the most part, they're going to have to pay money to get the venue, to get the manpower, to hire the people, to hire the employees to come out to be part of these events and oversee things so that they have actual representatives from Pokemon Go there at the event. There's a lot more that goes into it, and there is a reason that GoFest costs money. But the thing is, if you're talking about a global ticketed event, there's no setup time. There's no having to get permits. There's no nothing for any of that. And yet they're still charging about half the price of a GoFest ticket in order to attend this thing. So you're dealing with a completely different set of circumstances. It's an apples to oranges comparison. So that is my 2 cents on this Raid Pass ordeal. I hate to say it, you guys, but I am in the camp of I really don't think I can support this. I mean, if at any point during that 3 years where the apps and the Joy-Con issues and Pokemon Go were all running side by side simultaneously, all that would have needed to happen is for one executive from Nintendo to visit the Niantic offices one day and say, okay guys, listen, we need more aggressive microtransactions in the game. We need more players to be spending money, especially if they're not spending money already, because those are our shareholders. They determine the fate of this company. And I know that you guys have been doing microtransactions and stuff, but you gotta be tougher about it. I mean, it could have been really, really easy. All of that stuff is related to each other. Nintendo, the Pokemon Company, Niantic, they're all related to each other. And if it is true that the 3 companies aren't really connected as solidly as people would think, you know, you gotta think that all of these decisions trickle down from Nintendo down the whole thing. They're still using the Pokemon IP, which is a property that's owned by Nintendo. So can we really discount that possibility? And if it is true that microtransactions have proven to be more successful when they are scummier, when they are more aggressive, then who's to say that this Colossal Ticket discovery couldn't easily slip into the same sort of scumminess and lead to more events that Niantic is forcing people to pay for? You guys remember the whole Switch mechanic change? Remember when they nerfed that whole thing where, you know, the battle basically came to a screeching halt whenever somebody switched to Pokemon? The guys over at Go Stadium were like, hey, forget that. We're going to try to save this thing that we love. We're going to try to save all of these thousands of hours that the people at the Sylph League have invested in creating these tournaments and creating these metas and really making PvP something that people want to play, which helped bring more money to Niantic in the end. Maybe not too much, but I think it is helping Niantic's profits for PvP to be a big thing. And what happened? They had the hashtag SavePVP livestream. And I want to reiterate this point. Please listen to me, you guys. Like, all of the people on this live stream were very, very tactful, very respectful, very calm, very level-headed. They presented their points with dignity and grace. Nobody was yelling. Nobody was screaming. Nobody was demanding John Hankey's head on a stake in the front lawn. And what happened? They organized their thoughts, they expressed their concerns, and they got it changed back. We have the power as a community to change things. I would much rather be the kind of person who says something and is wrong rather than not saying anything at all, rather than just being completely complacent. So you guys, if you're hearing any of these points, if you even so much as partially agree with me that this could be a step in a bad direction for Pokemon Go, then I urge you guys to not pay for this raid pass. And if that puts me in a bad position, then so be it. I can't really hold it in any longer. I can't really let this go on without at least saying something. And if we look back at this video, if we look back at all the evidence we have presented, I think the strongest statement that we can make as a community is to simply not pay for this raid pass. But who knows? I could be wrong. It could be that the $7.99 ticket thing that they found in the APK mine wasn't even for that. Maybe it's just like in like a 10-pack of premium raid passes or something. Who knows what it is? Maybe there aren't going to be any exclusive Pokemon, so if you don't pay it, then you're still not missing out on anything. Who knows? Like the details have not been leaked. But if any of those ideas and speculations do come to fruition, then it's going to be the beginning of a slippery downward slope. If Niantic says, hey, they accepted it the first time, what's to stop them from doing it again a second time? It's just how it is. Like, we have to realize that this could, at the very least, be a problem potentially. So take care, you guys, and whatever you do, don't let this game become another Mario Kart Mobile. Please. Peace.